Hi everyone, this is Isa Teese.
And this is Raphael, and welcome back to Relationships Done Different. It's really great to be back with you guys, and we have a fun show tonight. And the name of the show is What's in Your Backpack? Defragging Your Hard Drive of Old Non-Supportive Programs. Now you're probably asking, and I think it's the first thing we're going to ask Isatis, is what in the heck is a backpack have to do with anything? And then we'll get to the hard drive later. But first, Isatis, welcome. And could you please tell everyone what the backpack I'm referring to is?
Well, the backpack is something that I use as a little example of the stuff that we carry around with us. You've probably heard the term, oh, she has so much baggage. Oh, he has so much baggage, whatever. And I'm just putting it in a little bit different way. And what the baggage or what's in the backpack has to do with everything is everything. In other words, what that means, Raphael's looking at me with his eyes crossed. What it really means.
I hope you guys understood that.
I'm just seeing if you're staying with me. Stay with me. So what it really means is that we have, as you've heard me say many times, we have old belief systems and ideas and ways of thinking that I call programs. And these programs are like, especially like in the old days, they may be like vinyl records, they were put in, they're in there, but you put them in your backpack. And then they might be like the VHS tapes, and then they might be cassette tapes, and then they might be DVDs, whatever. But the bottom line is that there are a lot of things that we think from a long time ago that are not applicable anymore, and they are not supporting us, and yet they're still there. We're carrying them around with us all the time. And pretty soon, the backpack gets really heavy and it's overflowing. And it's overflowing with all this stuff that is not necessary to have anymore. And in fact, it weighs us down with a real heavy-duty sense of many times depression and lack of clarity and a foggy brain and things that don't make us feel like we would like to feel. So we have these programs and these beliefs that are ruling our life, and we stuff them seemingly out of our sight. That's why I like the backpack, because it's behind you, but it's still on you. It's still in you. And one of the things that's really important is that we dredge it up and get it out. Now, some people go, in fact, this actually just happened day before yesterday. I was coaching with someone, maybe it was yesterday. At any rate, this person said, look, I'm feeling pretty good. And I don't want to cry again. I don't want to feel bad again. I don't want to go there. And I said, I so understand that. It's like, oh my God, here I am feeling pretty good, and I don't want to blow it. I want to stay here. And one of the things that's very, very important and true in life is that whenever we try to control any circumstances, it doesn't work. In other words, if you are going to deny something that comes up from within you and you pretend it's not there, what you're doing is you're stuffing it down. And guess where it goes? Yep, it goes in the backpack. So we have all of these fragmented energies, all these fragmented thought processes. And this is where the whole defrag the hard drive thing comes in, because for those of you that are even semi-computer literate, you will know that every time we start an action on the computer and we don't complete it, finish it, end it, delete it, whatever it is, what occurs is it's left kind of like hanging out there. It's not complete. And so it's a fragment. It's like a fragmented sentence. And we know that we don't get good grades when we have fragmented sentences in our English class. Well, the bottom line is our computer internally is saying fragmentation doesn't work. Back it up a little bit. That means that thought processes that are not complete and not dealt with are going to come back to bite us in the booty, or whatever word you would use. So that means that we don't want to just ignore it. And what I told this person that I was coaching was, I realize that you like thinking that everything's okay. But what I'm perceiving is that you're doing whatever you can to cover up what's really going on, because your resistance to feeling your feelings is so big that you'll do whatever it takes to not have to go to the place that you have deemed as uncomfortable or not friendly or whatever word you would use. Therefore, what I want to suggest to you, and this is one of the most important things, is give up the resistance to feeling what you feel. Give up the resistance to feeling what you feel. You feel what you feel. Where it came from, asking why has no value. It doesn't matter. What's true in the present is that you're feeling a certain way. So when you feel that certain way, instead of resisting it and rebelling against it and trying to move away from it, make it go away, ignore it, shove it, whatever it is that we try to do with these feelings is ineffective, and it will completely exacerbate the issue, because what you're doing is you're spending a lot of energy, you're giving a lot of energy to this particular energy field, and anything we give energy to grows. So it becomes harder and harder to hide what's really going on.
You know, this whole backpack thing and the hard drive is, I'm kind of into computers, and I don't know if even I don't even know if you know this, but when something is saved to your hard drive, it's not necessarily stored in one location after the other. It's stored in location 1, then it might go to location 15, and then location 30, and the operating system works so that it puts it all together. So when we get so scattered, when we have all of these conflicting feelings, when we have all of these thoughts that have come together over the many years, it's no wonder we can't make any sense out of what we're feeling and what we're thinking.
Well, that is very true. But before I go into that, am I hearing you say that when you have something on your computer, you said it's not just saved in one location. It goes to a whole bunch of locations and it's saved there?
That's correct. Right.
So how does that do that? How does it know where to go?
And the operating system knows how to do that. And that's why we periodically defrag the computer when you run the defrag program, like in Windows. I don't know about Apple. But when you run the defrag program, it puts them all in one location or in one area so that it allows the computer to run quicker. But the initial thing is, if you had a hard drive, let's say that only had 10% left, you can bet for sure that you're going to be saving stuff wherever there's an open space. And it's not until you actually defrag it that you reorganize everything. And until then, without a really good, accurate operating system, or in our case, sense of awareness, it can be problematic.
Well, we can talk about this after, but I
See,
I don't want to turn this
into
a computer class. But what I'm really asking is, I can completely follow the fact that it's saved wherever there's an available space. But if I'm hearing you're saying that it's saved in one space, and then it goes over and it fills up another space, and then another space and another space. So the one fragment is in like 10 or 20 places all at once?
It could be. And then when it's defragged, and the operating system keeps track of where all that stuff is stored. So that's why it comes out seamlessly. And what you see, like in a listing of all your programs and your files, that's just a roadmap, but the computer deciphers where that stuff actually is.
Okay, so I didn't know that, and somehow find that really amazingly difficult to whatever, but I definitely do know that when we have thoughts that are incomplete, that we keep them handy and they cause stress. Have you ever noticed that when you have something to do that hasn't been completed, that you feel some stress about it? Have you noticed that if you make a list of things to do and you don't complete it, that there's just this subconscious kind of pressure on yourself that's kind of like hanging out and needs to be completed? And have you ever noticed that if you don't deal with this, and then there's another one, and then there's another one, and then there's another one, not only do you have all these incomplete, fragmented thought processes, which means energy stringlets, then what occurs is that it becomes so coagulated and intertwined without a real complete, clear beginning ending path that we become really slow, like a computer that becomes very slow. We become foggy in our mind. We become ineffective with getting anything really done. We feel this heavy weight that we can't explain and we don't even know where it's coming from, kind of dragging on us. And it really creates us being ineffective as a balanced and happy human being.
It's absolutely true. And there's so many analogies to the computer and our brain and taking it deeper to the level like we talk about in our work, that I find it like so fascinating. The defragging of the hard drive is literally getting your mind clear, because you're putting everything in a place that can be easily understood. And to the human mind, it's not as easily understood. The computer knows where it is, but we don't. We don't think we do.
Well, yes, that's the key piece. We don't think we do. Our conscious mind doesn't remember, but the subconscious mind remembers where everything is, which is why hypnosis can be very effective, because when you get the conscious mind out of the way, the subconscious mind can go back and remember things from childhood, and even some people's beliefs are about other lifetimes and things of that nature. And when we talk about these fragmented thought processes, what we're really saying is that you are not going to be the happy camper that you would like to be. And it's not just getting it organized, it's about deleting them. It's about not having probably 99% of them even anywhere in or near your system, because they're not effective. Because they can't be effective, because they are not completely complete. It's like an incomplete thought. It's like starting a sentence and then we just move on to something else, like I just did right there. Well, we start to say something that's going to be really important, and instead of ending the sentence, did you know that the sun has been really interesting today? It's been in and out. See, I start a sentence and now I'm over here in left field talking about something completely different. The mind gets left with, well, what about what you were just saying a minute ago? And you know, a fascinating thing to do, just try this sometime. The next time you're speaking to somebody, just pay very, very, very close attention and notice how many people do not complete their sentences, and they don't complete the thought process that goes with the sentences. It's really fascinating. Very few people really speak incomplete sentences and incomplete thoughts, because we are so overloaded with so much data and so many multi-level things happening that we can't really keep up with them all. So we just boom, boom, boom. We shift from one thing to another thing to another thing. And another really interesting thing to observe is that when you're speaking to somebody and you're talking about one thing, notice how that will trigger another thought, and either you or the other person will now start speaking about that and completely forget about what it was they were talking about a few minutes ago. It's pretty fascinating. I mean, we're so erratic, and we don't do follow through. We don't do completion well in general. Some people do really well with that. Other people, not so much. And you can take a look at that through as a way of determining. You may be saying to yourself, oh, well, I do. I complete all of my sentences. I go through all my thought processes and I do all of that. Then if that's so, that's great. How many projects do you begin but you don't complete? How many times have you said, I am going to lose 10 pounds, but you never did? How many times have you said to yourself, oh, I'll take out the trash, but you never did? How many times have you said, I'm going to get that book and I'm going to read it, but you never did? How many times have you made promises to yourself or to someone else, but you never followed through? How many things in your life on a daily basis do you start but do not finish? All of this goes into your backpack. All of this builds up an internal thought process that you are not trustworthy. And if you aren't trustworthy, then you are never going to feel loved and lovable. And in fact, you'll feel guilty and shameful, and you will reject people who are trying to love you. It's really fascinating because all of this interacts and plays on the other parts of ourselves and other people.
And I think personally, and we've talked about this on previous shows, that the amount of input that we get from so many different places, from TV to internet to computer, all these kind of things, exacerbates that flow of information. It's like 16 lanes coming down into 4 lanes, and not all of it's going to get through. And that's exactly, I think, what we're really starting to feel these days. So I want to just shift the subject, but you know what? It's time for a break. So
Really?
We'll be right back in just a few seconds. So just hang on for 1 minute. Okay, we're back. And I wanted to just shift this conversation a little, because the backpack is not only is it the thoughts that the various fragmented thoughts that Isatis was talking about, it's the programs that we've developed all along the way. So we've developed them from childhood, and we've talked about this as well. But the point is that we don't even know those programs are running. So not only are we fragmented, but we have other things that are driving us, and we have no conscious awareness of it, which is what makes this even more insidious.
Most of the programs in the backpack are running in the background. And just like, since we're on computers today, just like in the computer, I frequently get a little notice that comes up, and I'll close, one of the ones that happens all the time is Skype, and I'll close Skype, and it'll say, Skype is running in the background. I don't even know exactly what that means, but the bottom line is I know it's somewhere handy. It must be still up in the RAM, meaning that it's still available to come forward pretty darn quick. Well, that's what's true about these things called triggers that we get. When we get a trigger, it is like a program that's been running in the background, and to the degree that that is a very hot button for you, will be more readily brought to the surface very quickly, or it might take a lot more for it to really come up. And when we do that, what we find out is that we are in a place that we are completely unaware that this is actually happening, or is there waiting to happen, because we become very robotic. So the backpack actually holds all of those programs, mostly the unknown programs that create us being very robotic, meaning that we do things through routine behavior. We're in rote. We do it without thinking about it, just like you drive your car, or you do the certain things that you do in regard to your laundry, or you're turning on the TV, or talking to somebody, or whatever whatever it is that you've done regularly and you know it by heart at such a high level that you do it without thinking about it. And that's the kind of thing that I'm referring to here. So your backpack is subconscious programming. Now, the majority of your backpack, I want to say 100%, but I'm just going to say majority because I always like to leave a little margin of whatever, is ineffective, dragging you down, and has no happy, high vibrating, generous love of opportunity or support for you. Therefore, all of this needs to be released. So when we talk about defragging your hard drive, we're talking about eliminating and not feeding any more into these fragmented programs or these unconscious or subconscious behaviors. So the question that always comes up, of course, is, well, how do I do that? Well, I'll tell you, the simplest, not necessarily the easiest, but the simplest thing to do is to be so present in the moment that you know what you're thinking, feeling, saying, and doing. And that means that every sentence is followed through to the end. Boom. I went to the store today. Boom. Period at the end of the sentence. That's a complete thought. Now, most people's minds will say, well, tell me more. What's that have to do with anything?
What'd you get at the store?
Yeah, or whatever. And so you can go on and expand on that. I went to the store today, or whatever I just said, and then it can be, and I got zucchini and vegetables and all these other things, and such was on sale, and I saw this sample that they had with these different oranges, and I got some of that, and oh my God, they were so good. And you could go on and on with a whole story about that, which could take your thought process out to a much longer dissertation, if you will. But the bottom line is, it doesn't have to be that much. The simple thing to do is be aware of what you're thinking. Be aware of what you're saying. Be aware of whether you're completing a thought to the degree that you can actually have correct grammar by putting a period at the end of the sentence. At the end of the sentence, could somebody read that sentence and know what it is that happened? Now, they may be curious about a greater depth of it, but would that sentence tell them something without leaving them completely hanging? And when you are totally present to that, that starts to restructure your hard drive. You start replacing a lot of that old stuff with new complete thoughts. Now, another thing that you can do to pick up those fragmentations is to actually go into a state of meditation. And the state of meditation can be my personal favorite, breathing in very slowly through your mouth to the count of 5, holding it between your eyebrows to the count of 5, slowly, and then exhaling through your mouth to the count of 5, very slowly. And repeat that cycle 5 times. And take within yourself the conscious awareness of where it is that you're thinking, and bring your focus into the center of your body, and then just send this energy or light or a color that's bright and brilliant and alive for you throughout your entire body, and literally ask for all the fragmentations that are left there to be eliminated. There's processes that we do in the retreats and in the coaching and in the workshops and things of that nature that we do that go through things like this with great extent, to a much greater extent. But this is something that you can utilize on your own, that you have the ability to clear out your hard drive just like you can on your actual computer.
And you've taught it at the retreats almost every one of them, you get to this at some place, that these processes for triggers and things like that, they're very effective. And my favorite, and the one that I utilize most personally, is when a thought comes into my head and I realize I'm judging someone, or I'm judging myself, or I'm having, whatever aberrant thought that I have, I go to myself, delete program. Delete program. It is so effective because it kind of like cuts the energy, it cuts everything off, and I don't have to worry about that it's going to come back. Now, it may come back again and again and again until I keep deleting it, but in that moment I am going to be free of that judgment.
And that is a really good It's a really good example of something that's very powerful. I have used that in the past a lot myself. And the reason that it does that is because it interrupts that old program. And when you interrupt the program, you will find that the more you do that, the more ineffective it is, until it finally, it's like the tape on the endless cassette tape breaks, and it's no longer effective anymore. So it will not be there haunting you, coming up and repeating itself over and over again. And the other thing about that is that you can replace these fragmented thoughts and these ineffective thought processes by replacing them with the things that you currently would like to be thinking about. So you can say delete program and then move your thought process to something like, I'm so grateful that my life is as great as it is, or something.
So using your what if statements, the hypothetical questions that we so often speak about, one after the other. So we delete the old stuff that's repetitive and not really serving us, and then opening our minds to something much more expansive.
Absolutely true.
And I found that one of your other favorite sayings is at night, and you always talk about this, is take me beyond where my mind knows to go. Well, if we delete old programs and then take us beyond where our mind knows to go, we are not only cleaning out the hard drive, but we're making room for new stuff to come in and to fill it up. That's going to be more expansive and more serving for us, more beneficial to us.
And like we spoke about in the multidimensional podcast, we're literally changing the vibration. We're changing the dimensional reality of where our focus is, and that allows for different kinds of thoughts, higher level thinking, if you will, to come through, which is always going to be to your advantage, because the stuff in your backpack is pretty much always ineffective, a lower vibration, might be filled with depression and grief and things of that nature that we just weren't real present at the time that it was happening. So it's very powerful for you to know that you have the power. You have the ability. It's time for you to step up and step out and make a decision about what you want for your life. And if you want a life that feels really awesome, then you must allow yourself to recognize where you were, where you are, and where you find yourself trying to think forward to, and bring yourself back to the center of this moment only and always. And when you do that, then you become empowered and you feel so much better, because the sadness, the depression, the resistance, and all of those things come from thought processes that are from the past or from the future. Be here now.
And it's just like we talked about last week. Would you rather be happy? Would you rather be right? Or would you rather be happy? And when we get to that place of, I want more rather than my own old limitations, sky's the limit in terms of great things happening for you.
I agree with you completely. So I feel that we're touching on this to give you an idea about what you can do with these backpacks, first of all, become educated about that. And if you have back pain, it might be that you're carrying around a lot in your backpack. No kidding. Literally, sometimes the body will respond that way. And when you can see and start to utilize this analogy in your favor, you'll see that incomplete thoughts, incomplete sentences, incomplete anything, if you don't close the cabinet doors, if you don't shut, sorry, Raphael, if you don't complete a book, if you don't complete your sentences, if you don't complete your projects, something different will occur in your life that won't necessarily be in your highest result category for what it is that I think that you really, really want, because we become judgmental on ourselves when we don't complete things. But in addition to that, what we do is we leave our energy fragmented, and that's because we are not staying present. If you're present, you'll close the doors or the cabinets. If you're present, you'll see what's on the floor instead of walking on something and blaming somebody else because they left it there. If you are really present, you will be aware of what you're saying and how the other people are receiving what it is that you're saying. So you can be very caring in the way you communicate, compassionate communication. If you're really present, you will find that you feel a lot better about yourself, and other people will feel safer with you. People will not trust people who don't complete things because they have a subconscious thought that they will not be fulfilled themselves in the relationship. Very subtle, but very powerful.
So I was just going to ask you, how does all of this relate to our relationships? This stuff about the backpacks and what we're carrying around.
Well, everything that's in our backpack is causing us to act or react about everything in our life. It's completely clearing or clouding our way of seeing, feeling, thinking in our lives, and obviously in our relationships. So if you have a lot of incomplete thoughts, a lot of fragmented ideas, a lot of old garbage ruminating in the backpack, then you're going to see life through the glasses that are relative to that energy, and you will only be able to experience and have something come to you based on where it is that you are perceiving it. So if you're perceiving your life to be victimized and not so great, then you are going to be in a relationship most likely that won't turn out to be the way that you would really like it to be, because you will be reiterating and pulling towards you what it is that you have been resisting or not looking at.
So being in a fragmented state creates inconsistencies, and therefore will affect the safety in the relationship, because the other partner will not really know what to expect. When's the other shoe going to drop, so to speak?
Exactly.
Okay, well, this is fascinating. All of this, the programs, the backpack, all of this stuff it runs through so many areas of our life, and it is just so important to become aware of and then ultimately to master. You have anything else you want to say before we go on to questions?
The only thing that I can say is that you may hear a lot of the same things in different ways of putting it, but let me explain to you that every time you listen to one of these podcasts, or you come to a meetup, or you coach, or you do a retreat, or you come to a workshop, or you do the online program that we're going to be doing, anytime you do any of those things, your entire perception is going to change. Your entire energy perception will shift. You will be at a higher vibration, if you will. That will increase your altitude, your attitude, and the way that you be in life. That being the case, when you hear something a second or a third time, that your conscious mind may say, oh, I've heard that before. But let me tell you, you will not hear it the same way if you've continued to grow and elevate yourself. So it never gets old The reason that it keeps coming up is because A, the principles are always very simple, and B, we keep hearing them. I keep speaking them over and over again until we really get it, until we become it. So be consistent with your own personal growth. Stay steadfast, follow through, and always come to any experience in your life as a child with curiosity and with the willingness to always be open-minded, open-hearted, and allow yourself to glean all of the gifts that are there for you.
That's really good advice. That's really awesome. Okay. Well, we have a question from Jada from California, and she was reacting to our multidimensional happiness episode that we did a couple weeks back, and she writes, "I was really blown out in a good way about your episode on multidimensional happiness. The idea of having the ability within us to shift to a higher level of happiness at will is really exciting to me. How can being multidimensional help me with my relationship with my boyfriend?"
Well, Jada, first of all, let me acknowledge you for listening to the podcast and for being in a place where you are open to the understanding that there's more to life than what it appears to be. And thirdly, acknowledge you for the fact that you would like to use these principles in a way that can be supportive in your relationship and, of course, therefore, in your life. When we make a decision that we want to expand out from where it is that we currently are, that means that we're in self-development expansion. We are learning more about ourselves, about life, and all of the things that are available for us. Some people stay in a nice little comfortable rut, if you will, and you and everyone who's listening to this is the kind of person that wants more, that knows there's more, that really wants to develop and expand who they are, what they know, what they can contribute to life, and therefore what they can receive. So when you are looking at multidimensionality and how it can support your relationship, one of the things that is very important is that you realize that whatever dimension you're living in is directly related to the vibration that you are vibrating at in any given moment. So if you're feeling depressed and you're feeling not oh so great, then you are going to be seeing things through the lens of what it is that happens at that specific frequency, if you will, or that vibration. Therefore, when you know that you're in that place, what's really key is to get yourself to another location dimensionally, so then you will be able to have an effective conversation. But if you go in with a chip on your shoulder, feeling victimized, not feeling like you are worthy of having things work out or whatever your thought processes are, then what's going to happen is you're going to attract more of that, more conflict to you. So the multidimensional self has to shift, not because you're doing it because you want to do something to your relationship, but because your relationship with yourself is going to determine what happens with the relationship with others. So remember, it's always about self. So what I suggest that you do is go back and listen to that podcast again and some of the how-tos on multidimensionality. And for simplicity's sake, it's important to think about another dimension as another frequency. In other words, a more elevated state of mind. In other words, thinking from a bigger viewpoint. In other words, observing that there's so much more than what appears to be in this very moment with such a limited range of vision. Because no matter how big of a vision you think you have, no matter how much you feel like you can see, no matter how much compassion you think that you have for other people, there is a gazillion times more than that that's available for you. So no matter where you are, always remember you're at the bottom rung of the ladder for your own self-growth, because your ladder will constantly keep going on into infinity, because the ability for you to be all you're capable of being virtually cannot happen. But it's so fun to know, learn, and live the journey of this, that when that becomes paramount for you, what you find is that you are able to really enjoy the journey instead of thinking that you're going to get somewhere. And when that's really clear to you, your whole life really, really shifts.
It's cool. Jada, I would just like to say that if you're able to voice this and have this kind of conversation with your boyfriend, and maybe he won't relate to multidimensionality or whatever, but if you can at least get him to start to listen to and be aware of how important your frequency is, and how that affects you and how it will affect him. If you open that conversation, it will just deepen your frequency. So it's being able to speak with your partner in a voice that he'll be able to hear.
Yeah, that's good. That's very true.
Okay. Well, this was fun. Okay, Isatis, what's our final question for the day?
Our final question for the day. Remember, these are rhetorical questions. Please don't look for an answer. Don't sit there and wait and hope something, just like shows up or downloads from nowhere. This is to give your mind an assignment to go out and be busy doing something that will be supportive for you and the love within your life, for the expansion within yourself, and for the support that will help your life be the most passionate, exciting, and amazing adventure. So the question is,
drum roll.
What would it take for me to empty my backpack? Now, I want to warn you that your conscious mind is going to want to dig in and say, well, I'm going to do those things that she said. I'm going to do da 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 da. What if something completely different showed up for you? What if it just dissolved overnight? There are so many more options available to you than even what it is that I covered, because I only have so much time to cover so many different options. And I promise you that you will have amazing things occur when you ask, what would it take for me to empty my backpack? What would it take for me to empty my backpack? What would it take for me to empty my backpack? Ask it and then move on to some other form of thinking and pay attention to what it is that occurs in your life. And sometimes what occurs is things that aren't really comfortable will come up for us to make a choice about, deleting the program or whatever it may be. It's going to be an adventure, because this is your life and you are here to have something that is more awesome than you could ever dream or imagine happen to you in each moment of each day.
And with that, we will say goodnight. I will say, what will it take to get you back here next week, when we are going to be talking about, are your judgments getting the best of your relationships? That is that's the number one killer in my view.
Yeah, our judgments.
So what will it take to get you here with us next week?
Yeah.
And we love you. Great. We really, really appreciate you listening, and we'll be back. Send us your questions. We really want to hear from you. Please go to our website, Isatis, www.isatis.com. We are putting on a sign up for our new newsletter, which we are just getting ready to launch. And we have a bunch of new things that I think you may really, really enjoy. So come and come to our website and just look around. One of the things you'll notice at the very top of the webpage, it asks 3 questions. Where would you like to start? Would you like support in your material world? Would you like support in your spiritual world? Or would you like to have it all in both worlds?
And please, thanking you in advance for sharing these podcasts with your friends by putting it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever it is that you live a lot. Please do that, because when we come together as a unified field of happy campers, the world is and will be an even more awesome place to be. Thank you, everyone. Feel a hug. Until next time, remember that I am you, you are me, and we are one.
Take care and have a great week. We'll see you next week.
Take care.